you don't even want to see the truth.
Black power was the catalyst.
I don't advocate any kind of hate.
But there's a lot of talk that sounds very much like it.
No, I think that the guilt complex of the American white man is so profound until when you begin to analyze the real condition of the black man in America, instead of the American white man eliminating the causes that create that condition, he tries to cover it up by accusing his accusers of teaching hate. But actually, they're just exposing him for being responsible for what exists.
Now, Jon Stewart is going to try to virtue signal his white guilt and go down the woke rabbit hole. Except in this segment, it seems like Jon Stewart is going so far down the woke rabbit hole that even Cory Booker is like, nah, you know, I don't necessarily really know about this. I'm not sure if I agree with you on this. Take a look.
Ways. And so he came in, I said, hey, look, we got a crisis. Very few black farmers are existing. Do something about it. He did something about it. It was my legislation.
And my point is, what happened to that legislation?
It got stopped.
That's my point.
Because we have a Supreme Court and that we knew
it got stopped because
of legal challenges.
Resentment. Yes. White farmers felt like resources were being taken away from them and given to people
because people. Not again. When you say white farmers, if I'm a white farmer listening to this in Iowa, I'm thinking to myself, Jon Stewart's calling me. Jon Stewart is blaming me for stopping Booker's legislation. That's not true.
Because I believe that the statistical chances of people having high IQs, low levels of testosterone, experiencing early puberty, or possessing the ability to digest milk vary according to their ethnicity. It has been assumed by some people commenting on this channel that this means as a matter of course that I must exhibit racial prejudice, drawing conclusions about unknown individuals based solely upon their skin colour or ethnicity.
At this time, I was going to have a guest speaker for us tonight. I had invited the head of the Ku Klux Klan, the Grand Imperial Almighty Omnipotent Invincible Stomper. However, his wife won't let him out of the house tonight.
In fact, I regard making such premature judgment as irrational and wrong-headed. Let me explain why it is perfectly possible to hold a belief in scientific racism while at the same time opposing racial prejudice in all its manifestations, because I don't think that a lot of the people that comment here adversely to my views are altogether aware of what it is that I am saying and advocating. I might observe that very often they just limit themselves to being abusive rather than debating in any rational and constructive way. But still, all talk about differences between black people and white, or Chinese people and white Europeans, comes down to a matter of statistics, probability. Any statement which suggests that every black person is violent and aggressive while all white people are peaceful and kind is bound to be false. We're not dealing in absolutes.
In his place, we have the supply officer in charge of sheets and ropes. Fella's been coming along very nicely in the Klan. He started off as a clud, then he went to a kloop, and Kleagle, Klaxon, Klepto, now he's a clod. He's just been acquitted of murder for the 6th time. We'd like to introduce him now. Collie Lee Collie. That's weird, he's got his dog with him. His dog's a collie, too. How do you like that?
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to address my remarks to the Northern Commie Liberal Pinko Press. I have been living in the South for 27 years, and I have never seen a cross burning on anybody's lawn. I've seen whole neighborhoods go up.
Thank you very much, Collie. I think we all realize he's not playing with a full deck, folks.
We have all met gentle and intelligent black people, just as we have all come across white people who are unpleasant and thuggish. the differences are not a matter of absolutes, but of tendencies and percentages. The easiest way to illustrate this is by means of a thought experiment. Let us suppose, just for the sake of argument, that a small proportion of both black people and white are aggressive and violent, which, by the way, is almost certainly true. Now let's imagine that out of perhaps 100 white people, 3 are violent types who commit crimes against the person. Now let us just suppose that for some reason, perhaps genetic reasons connected with high testosterone levels or early puberty, that out of 100 young black men, 5 or 6 will be similarly aggressive and antisocial. This will mean that if you compare an exclusively white area with one which is exclusively black, then the black area will have a rate of violent crime which is twice as high as the white area. Perhaps we are comparing a London district like Tottenham with an area like Richmond. As it happens, this is the kind of thing we actually do observe when we look at the crime figures. Does this mean that if I meet a random black man, I should assume that he is likely to be violent and aggressive towards me?
It might just work. It certainly hasn't been tried yet.
That would be nuts, because the proportion of such people among the whole black population is still only 1 in 20. I hope everyone can see that. In other words, meeting a young black man drawn at random, given the circumstances and the proportions that I've sketched out, then the odds would be 20 to 1 against his being a violent criminal. So although the area where the black community lives has got a crime rate twice that of the white area, it still means there's an overwhelming chance that the black person drawn at random from the community would not be violent.
Only a fool would ignore this. The unwary, the show-off, the fool. And this is the kind of place you'd expect to find me. But no one expects to find me here. It seems too ordinary. But that pool is deep. The boy is showing off. The bank is slippery.
Exhibiting racial prejudice towards a black man whom I have never seen would make no sense at all in those circumstances. This is because these possible differences only show up when we're considering populations rather than individuals. They are not absolutes. If anybody said to me that every black man is less intelligent and more prone to violence than every white man, I'd just laugh, because I know it's absolute nonsense. In just the same way, it has been suggested that the average IQ of people of African heritage is slightly lower than that of white Europeans.
In this moment of more quiet reflection, America suddenly stopped and smelled the racism.
This would mean that there would be slightly fewer black people with very high IQs and slightly more with very low ones. This wouldn't make much difference in the people who most of us meet in our day-to-day lives, who are likely to be of average intelligence anyway. I certainly couldn't assume that an unknown black person I was meeting for the first time would be less intelligent than I am.
Not buying it, try again.
If it is true that IQs vary in this way, then the effect would only be visible in entire populations. You might, for instance, find that fewer black people gained A levels at the highest marks, or that special schools tended to have rather more black children than they did white. About any random individual, I could say nothing sensible.
Oh, man, we're not slaveholders. We're not. Why can't you get over it?
I hope that I've explained this clearly. The idea that we can make any kind of generalisation about black people or any other ethnic group is not really a rational one, and to make assumptions about any person about whom nothing is known, basing these opinions purely upon skin colour or ethnic origin, would not be a rational and sound way to go about things. In short, racism is one thing, racial prejudice something else entirely.
And before we leave you tonight, I have one thing I'd like to remind you. The girls have been busy all week packing up the John Birch authorized kits. Everything is ready to go. It's got everything you need. We'd like every one of you to have one. You get your Donald Duck grenade launchers in there.
LGBTQ Americans, from Stonewall women to Seneca. Hidden figures who didn't even get their play until some Hollywood movie finally talked about them and how they were critical for us defying gravity. All of these people loved America. And so you faced insults here that were shocking to me. Well, actually not shocking. But you are here because of that kind of love. And nobody's taken this away from me.
It's a grenade launcher with the little Donald Duck on his side. 200 tickets to the witch hunt up in Salem next week. We got the John Birch Handbook on how to persecute without prosecuting. And mainly, we got a document that every American ought to see. This here is a list of 146 outstanding communists in the State Department. Each and every one of these 123 names has been thoroughly investigated by the FBI.
Then don't go passing statements of morality saying...
Do remember, check out the merch shop, check out the Patreon, hit the Cash App, hit the PayPal.
And then it became a thing of like, oh, it's not necessarily that you don't believe that this is the truth. You don't even want to see the truth.